What's up, guys? We've got the old Honda back in the garage. I've started noticing the temps rising above normal, and it usually gets the hottest when I'm going through a drive-through. So it gives me an idea there's no air flowing past the radiator. So it seems like the culprit would be the radiator fan. So we've got a ton of fuses and relays we can check, and we'll see if we can't get it ironed out. We'll take you through the whole process. This is a 2003 Honda Accord, but the process should be the same for most of your 2002 to 2007 models. So if we take a look at this radiator fan setup here, we've got two fans. Honda describes this fan as the radiator fan, and on the passenger side, that would be the AC condenser fan. And a little hack for you guys, if you have an issue where, let's say, you blew a fuse for your driver's side radiator fan, if you hit the AC button on your dash, that'll actually toggle on the AC condenser fan. So if your temps are getting up there, you can try that. It might help a little bit, bring those down. So in troubleshooting this whole thing, first thing I wanted to make sure is that both of these fans spin and it's not just a seized up fan. So we can go ahead and, these are both spinning freely, so we know that's not the issue. And now we're gonna come over here to this fuse box here. Each of these fans has its own fuse and relay. So first thing we want to do is check the fuses. For the passenger side fuse, it's going to be this 20 amp fuse right here. So we can pull that out, check it, that looks good. So we'll put that one back. And then for the driver side, it's going to be this 20 amp fuse here. So we'll pull that one out. And what we're looking for when we're checking these fuses, you see the little metal U-shaped piece in there? If that's burnt up or broken or you can't see through this plastic, that's most likely a bad fuse and you'd replace that. But this one looks good as well. So we can put that back. And this is just a fuse puller, and you usually one somewhere in the fuse box. So makes it so you don't have to grab a pair of pliers or something to change one of those out. So both of those looked good. So the next fuse we want to check is behind this panel here. And this is the fuse right here. It's a 7.5 amp. We're gonna go ahead and pull that out and check that one. That one looks good as well. The fuse we just checked controls power to both of these relays. The way the fan relays work on this particular vehicle, the ECU will send a ground signal to these relays, which will in turn turn on the fans. So these should always have power when the key is on. Since that fuse looked good, now our fan relays are coming into question. This is going to be the fan relay for the passenger side, and this is going to be the fan relay for the driver's side, and I'll show you how to test those. So we're going to grab a pair of pliers and wiggle this relay out. So if we take a look at this, these two larger posts are going to be for positive and negative, and these two smaller posts here are going to be what receives and send a signal, which will open or close the relay. So we can use a piece of wire or a big paper clip and bridge that, and that'll send power directly to the fan and let us know if it's actually working without the relay. So we'll just stick this John in there. And as I was saying before, that has power all the time, so there's not a key in the ignition or anything. So we know that fan's working well. And we'll try the driver's side now. And same deal, these two larger posts we can take. That fan works good. Fan worked good. So if you've jumped those two terminals and your fan doesn't kick on, doesn't necessarily mean it's the fan yet. What we want to test next is the actual connector. We want to make sure this connector is actually getting power. And again, we're going to jump those two terminals. So then, using a multimeter, we're going to switch this to on, and DC V20 usually works pretty good. I don't really know much about these things, but hopefully that'll work for you. And then looking at this connector, we want the black wire, that's that one right there. So we're going to stick the black probe into the negative and the red into the positive. And if you look at that, we're seeing 12.8 volts, which is perfect. But if you weren't receiving voltage there and If we plug it in, we know it's working. So we've switched these relays back and forth a couple of times just to see if one would work and the other would work. We know both the fans work at this point. It's not likely both the relays died at the same time. The next thing we're checking out is the fan switch, and that's actually connected to the radiator, and I'll jack up the car and show you where that's at. At this point, this is probably the most likely culprit. Neither of the fans are working when they're supposed to click on. So I got a new one of these switches. It was about $23, and we can just disconnect this here at this connector, and man, that's crusty. So I'd recommend draining the radiator for this part, but I personally am just gonna yoink it out, stick the new one in there. That way we don't have to rebleed the whole system, but we'll see. So this is a 24mm socket, fits over this, or a 24, oh, maybe a wrench would be better. Nope, don't have a 24mm wrench. So, socket it is on a breaker bar. I've got my new sensor right there so I can quickly put it in. No, we'll be good. Okay, so I just released the pressure that might have built up. Yeah, so we'll be fine. It'll be fine. Totally fine. So we got our new sensor. Yeet this John out of here. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. Oh, nice. This is a bad idea. Okay, it's pretty hand tight. I'm gonna keep pushing it in so that the threads are tight against, oh, oh, it's hot, but beautiful. Look at that. Look at how little coolant we just spilled there. Great. Yeah, it's just gonna need a little top off. Couldn't find a torque spec for it, so we're gonna go tight, but not too tight. No ugga-duggas. And there is an O-ring keeping it from leaking, so yeah, about that tight. So now we're just gonna take a little brake cleaner, hose that down, make sure it's not leaking at all, and plug it back in. Blam, done. So I know we didn't spill a ton of coolant, but we definitely wanna make sure that this is at the appropriate level. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is lower the jack from that side, jack it up in the front a little bit, take off the radiator cap, and we're gonna turn on the car and let it run for a little bit, and we'll top off any coolant that needs to be added, and then seal her up, and it should be good to go. So we're just gonna fire her up, and the engine's still pretty warm, so it might take just a minute, but fans should kick on. All right, you guys, we just got it up to temps. Fans didn't kick back on, so I ended up replacing a relay with a new relay, thinking maybe that could have been it as well, which didn't fix the problem either. Since we didn't really have a way to test if that sensor was good or bad, what we're gonna do now is bridge the connector that plugs into it. That should send signal to the relays and make sure those are good. So let me show you how to bridge that connector. So that's that same connector. You can actually reach it from the top if you're good and your engine's not too hot. Okay, so I've got that unplugged. So that's what that connector looks like, and this time we're gonna take a paper clip, just because it's a little smaller profile, and bridge those two connectors, or two pins. And since we don't want this grounding out on any of the metal, and the fan shroud is plastic, what we're gonna do is zip tie this up out of the way. So we're just gonna zip tie that like that, and that shouldn't hit anything metal. So now that we've got that paper clip in there, when we turn on the car, the fan should come on immediately. It's gonna basically be telling the car that it's at the max temperature. So let's go ahead, and I don't even have to turn on the ignition. And you can see both fans are on. So that working the way it just did basically tells us it's not the relays that are the problem. And we have to start looking at other possible scenarios. So the way I see it, either our sensor we just replaced is also bad, or we have a thermostat or water pump issue. We let the car run, get up to temps, and right away, this upper radiator hose is hot. I'll tell you that much. But I can reach down here and just hold on to this lower radiator hose. And the lower radiator hose connects right here to this plastic housing, and that houses the thermostat. So potentially what we could be seeing is the thermostat not opening properly or opening intermittently, which is causing really bad circulation in the radiator, which would mean that that sensor never gets up to temp. Next thing we're gonna do, drain the radiator, jump into that thermostat, and we'll let you guys know. We replaced the thermostat and let the car get up to temp, and we now have cold air blowing over the radiator. Fans are working just like they should. So turns out, wasn't an electrical problem at all. Hopefully this video will help you guys. Stay tuned to see us replace this thermostat. And as always, guys, if you like the video, like the video. If you want to subscribe for more, and we'll catch you on the next one.